Today is Tuesday, September 30th. We're talking about President Trump's new 20-point plan to end the war in Gaza, in which key leaders have already agreed. Also, it's looking more likely a government shutdown will happen within hours. We'll tell you where the negotiations stand this morning. And the new plan to put hundreds of millions of dollars back into the American coal industry. Plus, how football fans, commentators, and celebrities are taking the news about this year's Super Bowl halftime performer, who's behind the biggest buyout of a public company going private, and how an internet pioneer is marking the end of an era today. Those stories and even more news coming up. Welcome to the Newsworthy. All the day's news in around 10 minutes. Fast, fair, fun, and on the go. I'm Erica Mandy. Thanks so much for being here. You ready? Let's do this. President Trump has a new ultimatum for the terror group Hamas. Agree to this new peace plan within 72 hours or suffer complete obliteration. Already, the plan has been endorsed by Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and the Palestinian government that oversees parts of the West Bank, as well as several other countries around the world. So what's in this plan exactly? Well, there are 20 different points, but here are the highlights. All Israeli hostages would be released. More aid would flow into Gaza. Israeli forces would, over time, withdraw from the battlefield. Hamas would lay down its arms and forever renounce its leadership role. A technocratic government made up of Palestinians would be installed for Gaza, and it would be supervised by a board of peace led by President Trump and former UK Prime Minister Tony Blair. If Hamas does not accept or the plan otherwise falls apart, President Trump says Israel would have his full support to finish the job of destroying Hamas. The plan has been presented to the terror group, which is reviewing it now. Meanwhile, attacks on Gaza are continuing, so stay tuned. The federal government is on track to shut down by the end of the day. Congressional leaders met at the White House yesterday in a last-ditch effort to find some common ground. But by the time they left, they seemed to be no closer to a deal. And President Trump posted a fake AI-generated video showing the Democratic leaders talking to reporters, basically saying no one likes them. The fake video also put a sombrero and mustache on House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, who is black. The leaders responded, saying bigotry will get you nowhere, and calling Trump's video a tantrum instead of negotiation. The Senate is going to try to vote on two proposals today that, if passed, could avoid a shutdown. One from Republicans would extend current funding through November 21st, buying more time for bipartisan negotiations. Another from Democrats requests healthcare changes along with the extension. But both Republicans and Democrats are strongly opposed to the other party's plan, and they blame each other for being uncompromising. So neither proposal is expected to get enough votes, and the House is still in recess until October 7th. If the shutdown happens as expected, the government would become a bare-bones operation, continuing only functions that are necessary to protect life or public property, though processing layoffs will be allowed too. The White House Office of Management and Budget told federal agencies to consider mass firings on top of the typical furloughs, and those firings would not be reversed once funding is restored. At this point, it's not clear how many agencies have firings planned, but some have already started sending out their contingency plans. To be continued. Today, hundreds of American generals and admirals are coming from all over the world to an unusual meeting in Quantico, Virginia. And now President Trump says he'll be there too. We told you about the meeting last week when Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth put out the urgent order for all the top brass to be there, even those stationed in combat zones. Well, since then, the Trump administration has said the goal is for Hegseth to talk about his vision for the future of the military. That includes the warrior ethos he's been talking about and his standards to meet that fighting spirit. But the summons reportedly put some military officials on edge, especially since Hegseth has already fired dozens of prominent leaders and called for more. It's estimated that the lodging and transportation for all the military leaders will cost millions. And the event has raised security concerns about having all the top leadership in one place, when typically this kind of thing would happen over a secure video teleconference. Plus, if the government shuts down, key personnel could end up being stranded from their units. But Trump has defended the meeting, saying it's a good idea for Hegseth to be friendly with generals and admirals. As Politico reports, the speech will be recorded and possibly shared in the future. The White House has a new plan for a coal comeback. The Interior Department will open 13 million acres of federal lands for coal mining. The Energy Department will spend $625 million to recommission or modernize coal-fired power plants. And the EPA will give coal plants more time to comply with pollution regulations. Coal use has been going down for the last couple of decades, in many cases in favor of cheaper and cleaner natural gas, wind, and solar power. But President Trump says coal is more reliable and necessary to meet a growing demand for power. Interior Secretary Doug Burgum says it will strengthen the U.S. economy and create jobs. In fact, he's promoting the new initiative by saying, "Mine, baby, mine," a take on President Trump's "drill, baby, drill" slogan about oil and gas. Environmental groups say these actions will lead to greater health problems, higher bills, and a decaying environment. The Trump administration has already frozen permits for offshore wind projects, ended clean energy tax credits, and blocked wind and solar projects on federal lands. To be continued. This year's choice for the Super Bowl halftime performer has been getting a mixed reaction from football and music fans. Puerto Rican superstar Bad Bunny was announced as the headliner. He just wrapped up a 2-month residency in San Juan that brought hundreds of millions of dollars in tourist revenue for his home island. Many fans were willing to make the trip in part because Bad Bunny was not touring in the mainland U.S., saying he was worried about the possibility of immigration raids at his shows. Now he's making an exception, saying, quote, "This is for my people, my culture, and our history." While many conservative commentators are upset by this choice, with some predicting Bad Bunny will hijack the biggest game in American sports to push a woke agenda and criticize Trump's immigration policy. Others complained that he usually performs entirely in Spanish rather than English. But Bad Bunny is also getting a lot of support, with people like Jennifer Lopez, Jay-Z, Shakira, Jelly Roll, and Bruno Mars all celebrating the news. The NFL says Bad Bunny was a natural choice since he has the ability to, quote, "bridge genres, languages, and audiences." The Super Bowl is happening in Santa Clara, California in February. More news is coming up in just a moment, but first I want to take a moment to thank our sponsor. Did you know your liver is the second largest organ in your body, and it's responsible for over 500 functions? Yet most of us don't give it the attention it deserves. I recently found Dose for Your Liver, and it's such an easy way to support something so important. Their formula was created to help cleanse your liver of unwanted elements, aid digestion, and keep your body's filter functioning the way it should. What stood out to me is how simple it is. 1 shot of Dose is equivalent to 17 shots of turmeric juice. It's dairy-free, sugar-free, and vegan. And my husband and I were surprised by how much we enjoyed the taste. We both want to take it now. It's a daily habit that feels like a treat, and we love knowing we're taking care of our livers at the same time. And in a double-blind, placebo-controlled clinical trial, Dose for Your Liver lowered liver enzyme levels by 50% in over 86% of participants. And right now, you can save 25% on your first month of subscription by going to dosedaily.co/newsworthy or entering Newsworthy at checkout. That's dosedaily, DOSEDAILY.co/newsworthy for 25% off your first month subscription. Now back to the news. There are now new calls for reeling in American sports fans, even in golf, where etiquette typically means being quiet and restrained. That's not at all how things happened at the Ryder Cup in New York over the weekend, where Europe won 15-13. American fans are now being accused of verbally abusing the European players. There were personal insults, vulgar chants, and a beer was thrown at the wife of Irish golfer Rory McIlroy. McIlroy and some other players were not shy about giving it back either. And by the end, state troopers had to be brought in as protection. Well, since then, many European and American golfers have said fans crossed a line. The next Ryder Cup is in 2027, and it's happening in Ireland. President Trump has secured another big payout, this time from YouTube. The video sharing platform agreed to pay $24.5 million to settle a lawsuit. Remember, Trump sued YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter back in 2021 because the company suspended his accounts. After the January 6th Capitol riot, they had concerns he was inciting violence. But since Trump won a second term, Facebook's parent company Meta agreed to pay $25 million. X, formerly Twitter, agreed to pay roughly $10 million. And now YouTube has followed suit, though it didn't admit to any wrongdoing. Trump's share of the YouTube settlement will go to the nonprofit Trust for the National Mall and will be earmarked for the Mar-a-Lago-style ballroom the president is building at the White House. Video game developer Electronic Arts has agreed to be taken private in a deal valued at roughly $55 billion. So that makes it the largest buyout of a publicly traded company in history. EA Games produces some of the most popular video games worldwide, like Battlefield, Madden NFL, and The Sims. And a group of investors is buying it all, including a firm managed by President Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, and Saudi Arabia's Public Investment Fund. EA shareholders still need to approve the deal, but it's expected to close in 2027. Some of the most well-known artificial intelligence companies are showing off new products this week. For example, Anthropic unveiled its latest AI model, calling it the world's best AI coding system. The startup says Claude Sonnet 4.5 can operate autonomously for up to 30 hours, and it can build production-ready apps, not just prototypes, perform audits to make sure the apps are secure, and more. Separately, ChatGPT rolled out its new parental controls, so parents can link their accounts designed for teenagers. They'll have the option to set blackout hours where their teen cannot use ChatGPT. They can also block it from creating images, opt their child out from AI model training, and more. Plus, the new teen accounts will also limit answers related to graphic content, romantic role play, viral challenges, and extreme beauty ideals. Expect even more guardrails announced later this year. An old internet relic from the 1990s and early 2000s is saying its final goodbye. We're talking about AOL's dial-up internet. For the Gen Z listeners who may have never used dial-up, it was a way to connect to the internet using a conventional telephone line. And the connection process was known for its distinctive, high-pitched beeps, boops, and static noises. Of course, it also had just a fraction of the internet speed available today. And its big drawback was you couldn't use the phone and the internet at the same time. AOL did not invent dial-up, but it did help make it popular because it was easy to use and had a place in pop culture, like the movie You've Got Mail. Now, AOL dial-up joins a growing list of early internet products that have been discontinued in recent years, along with Skype, Internet Explorer, and AOL's own messaging service, AIM. That's it for the main news today, so now it's time for Trivia Tuesday, when we ask a different trivia question every week. But first, this episode is sponsored by Trade Coffee. It's so easy to become the person buying $6 lattes and cold brews at the coffee shop every day, and it adds up. Now with Trade, my husband and I get the same coffeehouse experience at home for a fraction of the price. And we honestly love our experience with Trade. From the moment I opened the bag that was conveniently delivered to my door, by the way, the aroma, the freshness, the flavor makes coffee fun and enjoyable. And since we drink coffee every day, having some variety that I don't have to think about has been amazing. It's introduced us to roasters we never would have found at the grocery store, and it's such a great value. Trade's prices are similar to grocery store brands, and yet the quality is always next level. And I love knowing that every cup supports small local roasters. Trade is the #1 coffee destination in the U.S. They partner with over 50 local roasters across the country to source the best beans, roasted to order and delivered right to your door. No more lines, no more $6 drinks, just delicious coffee exactly how we like it at home. Right now, Trade is offering 50% off a 1-month trial at drinktrade.com/newsworthy. That's drinktrade.com/newsworthy to get 50% off 1 month. drinktrade.com/newsworthy. Okay, now back to Trivia Tuesday. And today's trivia question is, which planet spins backward? Listen again next Tuesday for the answer and explanation. As for last week's trivia question, where do modern corn mazes come from? The answer is Annville, Pennsylvania. The first recorded full-size corn maze was built at the Lebanon Valley College there in 1993. Garden mazes have actually been popular ever since the late 17th century. But the idea to make a maze out of a cornfield did not come for thousands of years. When they first took off in the U.S., farmers created corn mazes with a plow or tractor, and some still do that today. But many mazes have become more intricate, often by using GPS technology. Hundreds of them can now be found at fairs, festivals, and other events around the country, especially this time of year as it's become a fall tradition. Thank you so much for joining us to get caught up on the news today. We'll be back tomorrow with the latest to know. Until then, have a great day.